Hey, it's Naila, and this is Girl, What You Reading? And today I want to talk about The Earth Remains. Let's do it. Okay, The Earth Remains by Shelley Burchfield. That book. That one. This book. Okay, let me start off by saying that I am a fan of historical fiction. I know that there are a lot of Black girls that do not really like slave stories, or they think that it's been told overly, told too much, or however it is they feel. I understand. I do. But I am a fan of historical fiction. I feel like we do need to tell those stories because it is a real part of what happened in American history. And if we stop telling the stories, then the stories will die. And people will not know what happened in our history or the reason why we do what we do. Now, some slave stories are going to be those stories that I'm not going to want to read or listen to or see anymore. But at some point, we have to remember that it was an actual part of our history and that, people have the right to write about our history. I mean, that's what historical fiction is. And so I do appreciate historical fiction. However, with The Earth Remains, it is very clear that this was written by a white woman from the South. It was clear from very early on in the pages that this was written by a white woman from the South because it was too much of her trying to sugarcoat some of the things that happened, and it was too much of her kind of pointing to, well, every slave owner wasn't terrible. Look at this one. She took care of her slaves. She followed the law. And it's like, okay, we know that not every slaveholder was abusive, but some of those things we know good and well that would have been a punishable offense back in that time. So some parts of the story did take me out of the story. However, I did appreciate the story for what it was. But yeah, talking about slavery, even coming at it from some slave's point of view, which she did, and I think that was a mistake. I really do. I think she should have focused more on Polly's point of view, but she also tried to incorporate some of the slaves' point of view, and you don't know. I don't feel like you're the right person to tell that story. I'm sorry. However, like I said, the storyline itself is pretty decent. I did enjoy the read. That's why I read it all the way through. I do feel like it ended abruptly and that she tried to rush the ending a little bit by doing one of those, oh, now it's 10 years later and this is what's happening. I don't think it was 10 years, but yeah, it's years later. Her slave has a granddaughter now and, all of those things. And it's just like, okay, you kind of rush the story a little bit by, oh, I simply killed the guy. And then, 10 years later, we were all doing good. Okay, great. We just read a 700-page book and it ends like that. Great. We were invested in that story and you ended it like, okay, well, the problem was fixed because we killed him. It really doesn't solve the problem. Oh, we killed him and made it look like a suicide. So it's all good. So nobody questioned it? Nobody questioned? Not even your lawyer who knew that you wanted to divorce him? I mean, it was just, it just got tied up in a neat little bow. And I don't know if I loved that part of it. My other problem is in how completely hard-headed the main character is. Like, how many times do people have to tell you, this is a bad guy, do not marry this guy, before you get that you shouldn't marry the guy? And then you married him anyway. Like, everybody told you. Your mama told you. Your best friend told you. Your overseer told you. Your slaves told you. Everybody said, look, this ain't the guy for you. He only wants your land. You didn't listen. You married him anyway. And it's like all kinds of things that people have told her, but she's just so naive that she just wants to do what she wants to do. She thinks she knows it all, and she knows nothing. And it's complete. And even after knowing some of the information, like even after she's gotten a full account of all the information, she still is going to try to make it work. Baby, no. And then finally her memory comes back and she remembers that he was there when her brothers got killed. Come on. That's the only reason why you shouldn't be married to this man? I can't. I mean, it was a lot of times in this story where people were telling her things to try to help her. And she pays no attention to what anybody says. She's going to do what she wants to do. And then at the end of it, she blames everybody else. Well, I didn't know. You knew. You knew. Everybody told you. You were dumb. Just say I'm dumb. But again, good story. Good storyline. Just some pieces just don't really add up. Don't really make a lot of sense. But if you're not looking for the plot holes, it's a great story. So, but you know, that I did like it though. So I was entertained as long as I wasn't looking for the plot holes. But I did wind up giving this book 3.5 stars because of those little problematic areas. But it was, like I said, still a good story, still a believable story, honestly. It's just, I'm not sure that she was the one that should be telling the story, because like the details get a little fuzzy. Especially when you're talking about such a horrific time. Even like some of the thoughts that her main character would have had, I don't 100% buy all of it. Because of the fact that, yeah, of course that's what a white woman in the South would think at that time. Of course, that's how a white woman in the South would feel in the times. Yeah, you could tell that story. You know that story. But when you started looking at the things that the slaves were thinking or that the slaves were feeling, that's where you lost me. So, yeah. And yeah, I don't buy all of it because of that. But as far as, was it a decent historical fiction book? Yes, I would say yes. So 3.5 stars on that one. Do I recommend that you read it? Yeah, absolutely. It was a page turner. I was in it. I was invested. Again, 700 pages though. We could have cut some of it out and put a little bit more in, to be honest. Anyway, I wanted to get on here because I have been reading. This one was the 5th read of this year. And as you know, it is only January 14th. So 5 books in already. I think I'm doing pretty good. The other books I didn't feel were worth the share. So don't worry, you're not going to get any videos on those. But yeah, so The Earth Remains, I do believe that it is worth the share. I do believe that someone else will enjoy it. I believe that I enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong. I just know that there were parts in it that, I side-eyed a little bit. Didn't make any sense. All right. So until next time, bye.